Joe Rogan used to be the voice of reason in MMA. Smart, passionate, brutally honest, the kind of guy who called it exactly like it was, no matter who was in the octagon. But in 2025, the man has completely lost his mind. He's gone from sharp analyst to UFC hype machine, from thoughtful to delusional, from fan favorite to full-on embarrassment. And today, we're breaking it all down. The bias, the failures, the bro science, and why Joe Rogan may no longer be good for the sport. Let's start with the obvious. The insane favoritism. Rogan doesn't even pretend to be neutral anymore. If a fighter has a six-pack, tattoos, and trains at a gym he likes, they could throw 2 jabs and he'll scream, "Oh my god, this is unbelievable." But when the other guy, the actual winner, is calmly outstriking his opponent, Rogan says almost nothing. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's clear as day when you watch UFC cards with the commentary on. Examples: Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan. Yan clearly out-wrestled and outstruck O'Malley for most of the fight, but Rogan was losing his mind over every single one of O'Malley's counters. Adesanya versus Strickland. Strickland dominated, but Rogan barely gave him credit mid-fight. It was all, Izzy needs to get going, and Adesanya just hasn't found the rhythm yet. No acknowledgement that Strickland was just better that night. It's not just annoying, it's misleading. It warps how casual fans see fights. And when you're the most influential voice in the sport, that's dangerous. Let's be honest, Joe Rogan isn't really watching the fights anymore. He's reacting. He yells when someone gets hit, he shouts when there's a big moment. But breakdown technique, game plans, round strategies, he's lost that edge. Compare his breakdowns from 2012 to now. Back then, Rogan would educate fans on what they were seeing. Explain why something mattered, show the setup, explain the feint, call out an adjustment. Now, it's all, oh, wow, he hurt him, even when it's just a clean jab. That kind of commentary might work for WWE, but this is MMA, and when you're supposed to be a martial artist, a black belt, and an expert. Worse yet, he's constantly wrong now. Fighter fakes a takedown, Rogan screams, "He got it." Fighter stumbles from footwork, "He's hurt." Someone misses by a mile, "Oh, that landed clean." It's embarrassing, and it's happening more often. Outside of commentary, Rogan has turned into a walking bro science podcast. Now look, nobody's saying Joe Rogan isn't allowed to talk about fitness or health or whatever meat powder he's shoveling into his body, but the issue is when he brings that nonsense into fight analysis. For example, he's convinced certain fighters breathe better because of nasal width. He obsesses over alpha energy as if that's a stat you can measure. One of the worst examples? His obsession with testosterone levels. Rogan will legit say things like, "I think this guy's just got insane levels of testosterone. You can feel it." Bro, what? This stuff might fly on his podcast, but not during a professional broadcast. Joe used to be brutally honest, even with legends, but now, he'll never call out aging stars when they're washed. He just says, "They didn't have it tonight." No, Joe. They've been cooked for years. Examples: Tony Ferguson, Joe kept hyping him up until Tony was on a 7-fight losing streak. At no point did Joe acknowledge Tony's inability to evolve. Anderson Silva, Rogan refused to accept Anderson's decline, saying, "He's just trying to have fun out there." Nah, he was getting worked. Worse still is the blind loyalty to the Dana White inner circle. It's clear, if you're not exciting or flashy or selling PPVs, Rogan has no time for you. At this point, Joe Rogan is basically a PR rep for the UFC. He never talks about fighter pay, never calls out bad judging unless it's against Dana's favorites, never brings up health, union issues, or the UFC's growing list of lawsuits. That's not an accident, but here's the problem. You can't call yourself a truth teller while actively avoiding the biggest truths in the sport. Fighters are underpaid, Rogan says nothing. Fighters getting CT scans only after brain trauma, crickets. More and more fighters ducking hard matchups for influencer fights. Rogan just laughs it off. He's gone from journalist to cheerleader, and for a guy who built his brand on keeping it real, that's the worst sellout of all. MMA has evolved massively in the last 10 years. We've got new training styles, data-driven camps, smarter coaching, new fan expectations, but Rogan still yelling about leg kicks like it's 2006. He doesn't study tape. He doesn't scout new names. If it's not a big star or someone Dana's pushing, Joe has no idea who they are. You can literally hear it during some of the newer cards. I don't know too much about this guy. Compare that to guys like Michael Bisping or Dominic Cruz. Love them or hate them, they come prepared. They know regional records, gym camps, weaknesses, and fight history. Rogan just shows up and vibes, and fans are noticing. You might be thinking, why does this matter? He's just a commentator. But Joe Rogan is not just a commentator. He has more influence than half the UFC roster combined. When Rogan says something, millions take it as fact. So when he pushes biased narratives, praises the wrong fighters, or ignores important issues, it shapes how fans see the sport. And that's dangerous. He helped build MMA, no question. But now, he's hurting it. He gives fans a false sense of what's happening in the cage. He ignores the struggles of real grinders. He's contributing to the UFC's shift from sport to entertainment product. And when that shift completes, when it becomes WWE with blood, we'll look back and see Joe Rogan as one of the loudest cheerleaders of the fall. Here's the thing, we're not rooting for Rogan to fail. In fact, most of us want the old Joe back. The Joe who told it like it was, who stood up for underdogs, who wasn't afraid to challenge Dana on air, who educated fans and elevated fighters. But that guy feels long gone. If Rogan wants to be taken seriously again, here's what needs to change. Call out BS judging and matchmaking, even when it hurts the UFC's bottom line. Drop the hype machine act and return to analyzing skill. Start paying attention to fighters outside the top 5. And most importantly, stop acting like a company man and start acting like a martial artist again. Until then, Joe Rogan will go down as a legend who stayed too long, said too little, and ended up losing the respect of the very sport he helped build. So, what do you think? Has Rogan really lost it? Is he still good for the UFC? Or is it finally time for him to hang up the headset? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button for more MMA truth bombs, and remember, in a sport full of hype, it's our job to keep it real. See you in the next one.